皆さんこんにちは。楽天証券の山口です。今回は日本の投資家の皆さんにとってもおなじみの S&P ダウジョーンズインデックスのニューヨーク本社のスタジオにお邪魔しています。ファンドマネジメントハックではこれまでアクティブファンドを中心に情報をお届けしてきましたが、今回はインデックスの真髄についてもしっかりお届けするためにインデックスの本家本元とも言えます S&P のプロにお話を伺っていきます。お話しいただくのはインデックス投資戦略のヘッドを務め、情報発信や投資教育にも携わっていらっしゃいますガンティさんです。So thank you, Anu, for having me today.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to start with the growth of index investing in Japan. How do you view the spread of index investing in Japan, such as S&P 500? Is it faster than expected? And how much is global impact?
It's a great question, and the S&P 500 absolutely has such a global impact. And I'll give you a couple of statistics. For example, there's roughly $20 trillion benchmarked or indexed to the 500 alone. So we've seen significant growth there. Also, if you think about the liquidity ecosystem surrounding the 500, there's roughly $279 trillion in volumes tied to the index, and that has been growing as well. Also, if you think about the Asia impact, we've seen significant growth there in terms of trading volumes. And if you look at the average volume traded of S&P 500 ETFs in Asia, that has more than quadrupled in recent years. And then if you extend that to derivatives, exchange-traded derivatives, specifically options, we've seen significant growth and faster growth within the non-US hours trading space. So this is an exciting time for indexing. And now if you're wondering, well, what's driving this growth of indexing? A big part of that is from what we track in our SPIVA scorecards, which stand for S&P indices versus active, where we track active manager performance versus the appropriate benchmarks. We do this in the US, we do this in Japan, we do this all around the world. A couple of statistics are more than 90% of US large cap managers underperformed the S&P 500 over a 20-year period. In Japan, very similar results. Over a 15-year period, we saw that more than 80% of Japanese large cap managers underperformed. So this has been a huge driver, a propeller driving index-based investing.
From worldwide perspective, how is usage of index-linked products evolving?
Yeah, so no, that's an important point because it's a lot more complex than two buckets of active or passive. So the lines are increasingly blurring if you think about the trading of index-based products, and they range across a different set of frequencies. And for example, if you look at the products tied to our indices, you can take the assets and the volumes with those, and together you can divide and look at the average holding period of these products. And what we found increasingly is for a lot of these products, there were high trading frequencies, relatively low holding periods. For example, in our liquidity research, we saw the average holding period was 198 days in 2024. It came down from 222 days in the prior year. Also, there's a couple of important points across asset classes. For example, if you look at the fixed income products, we saw that holding periods increased over them. So perhaps greater passive adoption there. For US and global equities, we saw the opposite. We actually saw a decrease in holding periods. So the important point is that these passive products don't necessarily mean passive usage.
I'd like to ask, what are the similarities or differences in Japanese markets compared to the US relative to indexing?
Yes, there's a couple of important differences. Of course, if you take the S&P 500, that's 500 companies domiciled in the US, right? If you look at the TOPIX, that's roughly more than 1,600 domestic companies. So big difference right there. Also, there's important sector differences. So for example, when you look at Japan, greater weights in financials, industrials, consumer discretionary. Now, if you look at the US and see the 500, there's greater weights in, of course, technology, communication services, healthcare. So understanding these sector biases is crucial. And we've done a lot of research on this. And historically, we've seen that adding U.S.-based exposure historically has helped to mitigate some of these risks and enhance performance when thinking about local Japanese strategies.
I'd like to move on to the next topic about trends in index utilization. The S&P 500 and the Dow are two of S&P DJI's most well-known indices. What are some of the other indices that are commonly used, and have there been any trend changes in recent years?
Yes, and you're right calling out a few of those names like the S&P 500 and Dow. And I like to use the analogy of generations, right? So initially we had large cap indices like the S&P 500, typically market cap weighted. Then we got more granular, for example, sectors, industries, think of technology, think of semiconductors, for example. Then we saw factor-based investing, for example, exposure to specific patterns. And these indices are typically not cap-weighted. So think of quality, low volatility, equal weight, for example. So the evolution continues. The latest evolution, of course, we've seen within the thematic space, thinking of more granular exposures there. So indexing and innovation continues to evolve. Top of mind right now, there's a lot of market concentration concerns. We have a S&P 500 equal weight index, same 500 companies, but equally weighted. And historically, we've seen that after peaks in market concentration, that the equal weight strategy has outperformed.
Are there any unique indices you offer, such as you mentioned earlier, sector-specific, smart beta, that may be particularly relevant for Japanese market participants?
Yes. So I think we just covered a few. We're talking about factor-based indices, equal weight, given the current environment of tech dominance. And of course, I'd like to come back to sectors, right? Because we talked about the different sector exposures between the US and Japan. And we offer sector-based indices at the large cap level, the mid cap level, the small cap level. So there's increasingly this diverse menu of sector-based indices to gain those exposures.
I'd like to ask a bit about crypto. Crypto-related ETFs are increasing. How is S&P Dow Jones Indices helping bring transparency to crypto markets?
Yes, and that is also top of mind. And the S&P 500 is now available on-chain through Centrifuge's proof of index framework. So tokenizing the index, tokenizing the 500 is an important step in institutional digital asset adoption. And this is really an innovation in terms of digital asset infrastructure. So that way licensed asset managers can build strategies around this index, for example, ETFs and other strategies. So this is a big innovation, and we talk about indexing innovation and the generations. This is the latest on that front.
I'd like to discuss about education. The wide range of investors start index investing. The more important education become how to avoid risks, how to achieve goals, and so forth. SPDJI provides educational contents and videos. What do you consider appropriate investment education? How can those educational resources from S&P DJI help investors make more informed decisions?
Yes, education is so important, as we were talking about, and we offer a range of tools. We have written papers. We also have our indexologyblog.com page where we'll frequently blog about various topics in a short form written format. We also do videos just like this one, right? Well, we'll have conversations and talk about various indexing related topics. We also do dashboards, regular market commentaries on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis. We even have a daily dashboard as well as videos that go with it. So education is so important.
How can indices be used to help investors better understand volatility and make more informed decisions as they seek to address market fluctuations?
Yes, indices can be used in a lot of different ways. For example, indices can be used as benchmarks for active portfolios. Indices can be used as the basis for passive portfolios, and really just to see how the market is doing. For example, and as the news and the market environments change over the days, over the decades, and one of the important benefits of indexing is just that transparency with the rules-based methodologies that we offer, and also the low cost. And in fact, we estimate this, and we found that indexers achieved roughly $52 billion in savings across the S&P 500, the S&P 400, and the S&P 600. So that's been a huge benefit for market participants.
Okay. Could I ask additional question? As you talked about your making many videos, reports, blogs, how do you make investors read them, watch them? How do you motivate investors?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question, and I think it's because of the choice that we offer, right? Because there's so many different ways to consume content and indexing content. So there's written content, for example, a long paper. There's short form content like the blogs on our indexologyblog.com. There's the video format, and for example, there's our related market measure video series where you can watch it on the go, right? So you can watch the video and you can also access our daily dashboard, which comes out daily to understand what's happening, what the latest market moves are from an indexing context, and really have a gateway to all of our content. And of course, our website at S&P Dow Jones Indices offers a huge array of content pieces. So the question on that is just offering a diverse set of tools and education is so important. And we do this globally.
Okay, thank you so much. It's very beneficial to me. Lastly, I'd like to ask about your company as a compass for the industry. Index changes have growing global impact, which requires integrity in all processes and decisions. Can you tell us about S&P Digital Index governance?
Absolutely, and that's an important point. And our governance framework is there to provide integrity for our benchmarks and to comply with the applicable regulatory standards. And there's independence in design. There's also a separation of duties across the organization, which helps to mitigate conflicts of interest. And there's oversight as well with the Index Governance Committee, as well as oversight from legal, from compliance, and risk. So very important.
What's the role of AI and technology in indexing, and how does S&P DJI account for human integrity and ethics?
Yes, and at S&P, we're fully committed to the AI revolution. We've been seeing the news developments and following all this closely as an index provider. I think a great example of that is S&P Global's acquisition of Kensho in 2018, because now we have our Kensho suite of indices within the thematic space that offer exposure to the fourth industrial revolution. If you think about areas like cybersecurity, or drones, or robotics, or artificial intelligence. So we're at the forefront there. And also data is so important. And increasingly we have data both within indices as well as within our parent organization, S&P Global. And using those large language models helps us to stay agile and to keep up and stay up to date with the latest innovations in the market as an index provider.
Absolutely. Thank you. Lastly, can you walk us through how S&P DJI continues to innovate to meet the changing needs to the market?
Absolutely. And to sum up, we've covered so much here. If you think about the evolution of indexing, S&P continues to innovate. Starting, we talked about with the S&P 500, with the Dow, and all these flagships, and so many increased diverse ranges of indices from sectors, to factors, to thematics, to the digital markets that we talked about. And we continue to innovate in this space because as an index provider, we're here to measure the markets, right? And that's what we continue to do and continue to innovate across the world.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. Enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.